This is an interview of Frank O'Connor at Orchard Park High School, April 21st, 2004. The interviewers are
Jeff Smith,
Andrew Jensen,
Diane Manley,
Chelsea Nethery.
Tom Weber.
who are in,
Frank O'Connor.
okay. Okay, guys, have a great time. Just keep this going. And they'll okay, and we'll see you at the end toward the end of the period. Okay?
Thanks. So.
Were you drafted or did you voluntarily?
I was drafted. I was drafted September 17th, 1951. And I at that time lived in Chicago and went downtown to the main post office in downtown Chicago and was sworn in. And they put us on buses and took us up to Fort Sheridan, which is north of Chicago. When we got up there, we went into an easy company, and that's people coming in, going out, people who are being changed somehow. During the time at Fort Sheridan, they segregated about 200 of us into a separate barracks, and after some eye tests and other kinds of math tests and so on, they told us we were going to Fort Sill in Oklahoma. We went to Fort Sill on a train and took artillery training as forward observers at Fort Sill.
Go ahead. Oh, me. What was your reason for wanting to go? Did you want to go or did you not want to go?
I was drafted. It wasn't a matter of wanting to go. I got a letter saying that my friends and neighbors had selected me to represent them in the Army of the United States of America. And I was drafted, and that's how I got in the Army.
How did you feel about being drafted?
Really all right. I had been going to college and doing very badly, and took a semester off to do some things I wanted to do, and during that semester I got my notice that I was drafted, and I went. And I was not unhappy to go, actually. It was not something that I was broken up over.
did you see any of the combat firsthand? Like, were you in there fighting, or were you?
I was on the line for 9 months. Our outfit never came off the line. We came down to the battery area every month or so to get a haircut and get paid and change clothes and so on. But we stayed online the whole time. And as a result of that, I was out of Korea in 9 months. The routine was that those people who were online got 4 points a month, and you needed 36 points to get out. Now, those of you who are interested in math will realize that 36 divided by 4 is 9 months. And if you were further back, it took longer to get out. You might be there a year, or it might be there 15 months or 18 months, or till you were to be discharged. So when I came home, I had a lot of time yet to spend to make my 21 months. And they sent me to Fort Sill, or to Camp Atterbury, just south of Indianapolis, and I taught forward observing at Camp Atterbury. The 31st Infantry was at Camp Atterbury.
Was that your division?
That was the Mississippi Alabama National Guard. And they did not believe that you could talk on the telephone and somebody a mile away could hear your voice, because where they came from in Mississippi, Alabama, they had never seen a telephone. So it was an interesting, I was there for 5 months.
How did you like stay in touch with your family?
Pardon me?
How did you stay in touch with your family?
How did I stay in touch with them? Letters. It was before computers. It was before the internet. There was no email. We rode horses and clattered over wooden bridges. Letters were the major way of staying in touch, and once in a while you'd make a long distance phone call, but that was relatively rare.
In your unit, what was your unit?
First Field Artillery Observation Battalion.
And what was your division? Your division.
We were not in a division. We were attached to Corps Artillery. There were 3 corps in Korea. The 1st, the 9th, and the 10th. We were in the 1st Corps. We were in what was called I Corps. So we were not attached to a division. We were in. We wore the 8th Army patch. I was with the 45th Infantry for a while, and then the English came up. The Black Watch came up, and they came up in the summer, and they were all wearing shorts and long stockings, and they had bagpipes with them, and the non-coms, the sergeants and so on, all carried swagger sticks and had soft caps on. We all wore helmets, steel helmets, and these guys were dynamite. They were something. And then the 3rd came up, the 3rd Infantry, and then the 7th. And when the 7th came up, I went home. But we stayed all the time. We moved with the infantry, we ate with the infantry, we did everything. We were detached, really, from our outfit.
Did you have anything to do in your spare time? Because I understand it's not just constant battling and fighting. And so what did you do in your kind of times when you're just not really...
Slept.
All right.
We were on duty 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
So we worked in 4-hour shifts.
Mm-hmm.
And when you sit on a scope for 4 hours, it really gets to you. So we were on the very front line, and there wasn't much, you couldn't do much outside. So you stayed in your bunker pretty much. We played cards once in a while or so on. The 4 of us were together all the time for the 9 months. We were groups stayed together. Even if we moved or changed locations, we would move as a group.
Although war was a really horrible time, do you recall any memorable stories, or maybe a funny story or an unusual one?
When we came to Camp Drake in Japan, And from Camp Drake, we went to a port city in the south called Sasebo. And we got on a Japanese luxury liner in Sasebo. A Japanese luxury liner has straw mats on the deck. A Japanese liner does not. It was about a 15 or 16 hour ride to Korea, to Sasebo, Korea, to Busan, Korea. And we were sitting on deck. It was not very cold or unpleasant. And they came around with live ammunition. And I thought, that is really not a good sign. That is not a, that's a clue. Then a few minutes later, they came around with wills, sample wills that you could fill out and mail in. And I thought, boy, that's a second clue that's not very good. But those are those are the interesting kind of things that happen after we got off the ship in Busan. They pinned a note on our field jacket with the outfit we were going to. And I got on a tank, back of a tank, and rode up to Seoul, just north of Seoul. And I got to the outfit first. I was one of the first ones because the others were catching rides as they could. And I got a ride all the way up. So they took me up to the OP where there were 4 guys who were going to be rotated. And I thought, gee, you know, they'll break me in and they'll explain how things are going and they'll tell me what to watch out for and so on. They said, you're our replacement? And I said, yes. They said, goodbye. We're out of here. And they left. And I sat up there till the other 3 made it up to the line. There were a lot of funny things that happened in service. And those are the things you remember, the unpleasant things you tend to forget. I have a picture here that you might be interested in. This fella trained with us at Fort Sill. And 4 of us were very close friends. 3 from Chicago, and he was from Milwaukee. His mother died 2 weeks or so before we finished training. And he went home on an emergency leave. I got to Korea, I got to Korea, and he was in an artillery outfit. He had finished his training with another group. I was coming off the hill and stopped and saw him at the artillery outfit. And 50 years later, we had lunch together at that restaurant. And we decided we should meet every 50 years. We should not let more than 50 years go by without having lunch. And he's a nice guy. He still lives in Milwaukee. The other 2 were both dead. One was killed in Korea, and the other was died about 2 or 3 years ago. But it was interesting to see him. He doesn't look as good as he did when he was in Korea, but I do.
Did you ever earn any special medals or awards during?
No, I was their medals, which is the Korean
Korean War.
campaign ribbon
Mhm.
and the UN. We got a medal from from Korea, from the Republic of Korea about a year ago. It came in the mail with a letter from the President of the Republic of Korea. It was a really neat medal, and we're authorized to wear it. So everybody who was in Korea got one. Also have the American Defense Medal, which is something everyone
Everyone gets.
got.
Mhm.
But I did not get any big medals.
So what exactly was your training like? Was that really hard, or?
It was Fort Sill, Oklahoma. It was not hard. There was 8 weeks of infantry training, and then we went to school for the other 8 weeks. They taught us how to direct fire, and they showed us the guns and so on. We only used, let me see if I can show you. Here is a scope. You can see the scope. That was the front window of the observation post that we were on. And the scope was a 10-power telescope that you could read a newspaper at a mile with. It was a very powerful telescope. That you'll have trouble. And again, you know, now people have digital cameras and so on. Nobody had cameras in our day. The few pictures I have were pictures that other people took. There were not a lot of cameras around or sophisticated equipment like we have now. They were brownie box cameras.
Speaking like of the internet and stuff, do you ever like go on like websites and like, are you aware of like the Korean War like websites and stuff?
Go where?
Like on the internet to like search and stuff?
Yes, I went on the internet a couple of months ago, and I found a picture of the Liberty ship I went overseas on. It was called the General M.M. Patrick. It had a big sail with a cross on it and guys chained to oars rowing. It took 16 days to go across to Japan. And it was interesting, we got on board ship, and the word on board ship was that we were a secret expeditionary force going to Alaska. The fact that we sailed straight west for 16 days and 16 nights didn't bother anybody. Even when we got to Japan, where you could see the lights of Tokyo, they said, that's all a phony. That's Alaska, that's not Japan. We got off the ship, and I'm sure some guys really thought it was Alaska, but it was not. It was Japan.
How did you feel when you first arrived in Korea?
Scared to death. when I got to Korea, the 45th Infantry was on the ridge that we had the OP on. And the 45th Infantry was taking terrible, awful casualties. And the Chinese were very good with mortars, and we got a lot of mortar rounds in, and it was scary. It scared me to death.
When the Korean War started, wasn't it originally like a police action, not necessarily a war? So when you went over, did you know it was a war, or did you think it was just like a police action?
I knew for sure it was a war. They handed me that big gun and all those bullets, and I wasn't. The reason they called it a police action was they were trying, initially when Korea first started, they were trying not to have the Chinese come in. Chinese came in. It was a war then.
Were you scared that maybe it would trigger like another world war because China's a big country?
Yeah.
Were you really
Yeah,
scared?
it was very close to a world war. The Chinese were there in strength. There were a lot of Chinese, and they were good. They were very disciplined and organized, and although they were at the same time primitive, the officers rode horses, and they fired red and green flares to direct the troops, because China is such a big country that they don't speak the same language.
Yeah.
There were 4, 5, or 6 different dialects that in a Chinese group. So they used red and green flares to direct the troops, and bugles. They blew bugles a lot. And a fella on another OP, not on ours, but on another one, got a box of flares, of their flares, and a flare gun. And he learned their code. He watched the flares go up and what they would do, and
Wow.
it got like he was hunting crows. He could get them running around in circles. But they were good. They were good. On a handful of rice, they could go 3 days.
Wow.
Gee.
How much were you told about the situation in Korea before you left?
Oh, well, like you hear about Iraq now, we heard about Korea. It was in the paper every night. We knew it was very serious. We knew it was erupting into a more and more serious situation. A great deal like now. Great deal like you hear about Iraq.
So if you could pick 1 or 2 stories or events, what was your most memorable event from out there?
Coming home. I remember that very well. The getting there, I guess, was the other really memorable event. Being in a place where you had absolutely no control. When rounds are coming in, you have no control at all, and it was frightening.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, what was like one of your most scariest situations where you thought maybe you might not make it home?
The Chinese had an inclination to overrun our positions. They would run people onto our minefields and across the wire and overrun you, just strength of numbers. And I can remember machine guns that the barrels were red hot and wouldn't fire anymore because they had been fired so much. We were in a situation one time where we were being overrun, and that was, I think, when I was most concerned.
How close were they to you?
Close.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you
very
you could hear 'em-
close.
you could hear 'em speaking?
Very close. It was not a good deal at all.
Like after the war, what did you do as a career
After the war,
when you came back here?
when I came home, you mean?
Yeah.
I got home like on a Wednesday, and I slept in Thursday morning, and I slept in Friday morning, and I slept in Saturday morning, and Sunday morning my father said, "Been home a while. What do you plan to do? What are you gonna do?" I was very clear that the next thing on the agenda was to get a job. So I registered for college the following September. I got home in June, and in the meanwhile I worked on a construction outfit and did away with the summer, drank adult beverages in the evening, and did all kinds of good stuff.
Was the war still going on when you got back?
Yes,
In full?
yes. I married one of 7 sisters, and the next younger brother-in-law went to Korea just as I got home. I got home one week and he left for Korea the next week. So yes, it was still going on. I got home in January, and it ended in July 27th of 1953. And I went back to school and was on the GI Bill, and it was, I got out of school in 2 years. I was finished in 2 years.
Jensen, you haven't asked a question in a long time.
Yes. Well, what did you go to college for?
I went for business administration. I went to DePaul University in Chicago. It was a commuter school, and took a degree in economics.
So what did you do with that? What sort of job did you have when you were out?
I negotiated labor contracts and did arbitration and grievance work. I worked for large printing companies and negotiated contracts for them, and was manager of industrial relations.
Is there anything that you would do differently?
Pardon me?
Is there anything at all that you would do differently in your entire experience?
No, I guess I wouldn't, actually. As I said, I didn't resent going into the service. There were a lot of good times, and in the Army, every time you get sick of being in one place, they move you. You're moving a lot, so you don't get bored very easily, or I didn't anyway. it seemed like I was always moving someplace. I don't know that I would recommend Korea as a vacation spot, but it was not bad. It was not bad. Could do a lot worse.
How was the food out there?
We ate sea rations.
Okay.
That's C is for combat. They came in 2 cans. You had an entree in 1 can. And in the other can were 2 crackers, a chocolate bar, a package of cigarettes, package of matches, and forget something else. At any rate, the entrees were beans and franks,
All right.
corned beef hash, ham and lima beans.
What was your favorite?
The only one I ever got was corned beef
Really?
hash. I could smell it through the can. I didn't have to open it. I knew what it was. There were boxes, cartons all along the line of sea rations, and you could take as many as you wanted.
So they didn't have a problem with supplies?
Pardon?
They didn't have a problem with, like, supplies? You guys were well supplied?
The only time we ate anything different than sea rations was when we went down for a haircut and a shower, clean clothes, get paid. And when I came back from Korea, I came back to San Francisco. And when we got there, they paid us. And I had 9 months of combat pay coming, which was $45 a month. Not a good deal. I had a couple of months of pay coming, and I had 2 or 3 months of overseas pay coming. So they gave me in currency like $800. Now in 1952, $800 was a lot of money. People worked full time for $50 or $55 a week, and $800 was a lot of money. Then they put us on a train back to Camp Crowder, Missouri, and all of us had a lot of money. All of us were Korean veterans. All of us had a lot of money.
Oh, flip it.
We're almost out of time.
They
Yeah.
would stop the train, and guys would get off and get cases of beer and cases of bourbon and cases of gin. It was, by the time we got to Camp Crowder, everybody was drunk. It was but we had a lot of money, and then at Camp Crowder we went home on leave. So it was the $800 was always had me impressed.
What were the people of Korea like? Did you get any time to meet any civilians, or not really?
Not much,
Mhm.
not much. We were in the mountains most of the time, and we didn't see. We saw mainly North Korean soldiers. That was the major contact we had with the Koreans.
Did you bring any souvenirs back? Like,
Nothing,
nothing?
nothing.
Did they let you, or no?
Yes, they let us bring a lot of stuff home. This train we're on, half the people on the train were armed to the teeth. They had 45 caliber pistols. They had hand grenades that were live. there was a lot of ordnance on the train, and it was not good because there were a lot of crab games and a lot of whiskey and a lot of all kinds of bad stuff. And it was a long ride to Camp Crowder.
Time's almost up. Mr. O'Connor, do you have any final words?
Stay in school, study hard, and be good people.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
thank
coming
you.
in.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you for the opportunity. You had good questions.
Great. Okay.
Going sort of an adventure. And once you've been in the war, you know that it is no adventure. And it just let me know how cruel and violent human beings are. It's a real awakening.
When you got back home, was it easy to just pick your life back up?
No, it's pretty hard for a while. I guess some of the experiences